We are reading from the Mandukya Upanishad, and this is our online class number 18 on chapter 1 of this Upanishad. We are studying the Upanishadic mantra number 7. So I will skip reading the mantra now because today we promised that we are going to take up a few technical words which will be helpful for us to study this Upanishad further, but we will study those based on the concepts we have learned from our earlier classes. We will rationalize those themes according to the explanations given by the great Shankaracharya. The discussion may seem to be very technical, and also for some this will seem to be very dry. But it is of great value to eliminate our beginningless and almost unending and pessimistic confusion that I, the real me, am mortal. This is the goal of all religions. In some way or other, all the religions try to tell us that we do not end with the death of our physical body. Hence, the concept of God is a transcendental truth. Some say that this is the only life that we have. But then they become a bit generous and allowed us to have a life after death, in heaven, in hell, or somewhere in between. What a self-contradiction. They thought they were speaking to children, and unfortunately we went on swallowing it without a pinch of salt. Even now also we do that. Please bear with me when I try to discard these beliefs as trash and then explain the rational and practical aspects of true realization, and that is discovered by Vedanta. I will try my very best to make the arguments and analysis as easy as possible. This discussion also will bring some rationality in our mind. We will discover that the conclusions of Vedanta are not based on speculations. They are at first based on direct realization and then closely scrutinized by formal and rigorous logic to show that they are rational. We will also realize, and I hope so, that we need some higher training in physics or any subject for that matter in order to be fit or competent to ask questions concerning the discoveries of higher physics. So let's try. Shankaracharya uses a very specific word, adhyasa or error, to explain a contradiction in our experiences. So we gave a caption for today's discussion like the analysis of error. Error or adhyasa is based on an ignorance, ajnanam. We will slowly understand that. So an error is created by an ignorance. Suppose in mild darkness, we see a rope as a snake. How does it happen? At first, we do not see the rope as a rope, which is called ignorance about the rope. In Sanskrit, Shankara says Rajju Ajnanam. And then we project a snake on the rope, which is called an error, adhyasa. So there was at first an ignorance about the rope, and there is a projection of a snake, which is called error. For every error, therefore, there is a preceding ignorance. This is a philosophical explanation. We need to know it so that we do not mix up between non-duality and duality, between non-dual realization and theoretical understanding, between the realized person and a person claiming to be realized, but at the same time leading an utterly worldly life, a wrongful life and an immoral life. Now I will cite some points for us to remember before we go to study it in depth, to study adhyasa. Adhyasa means error, I have said. Error happens between two things, which are called dharmi. Dharmi means, that I will explain. Two things are there in an error, and both of them are called dharmis. Dharmis are of two kinds. Unreal objects like the rope and snake, etc. can be dharmi. And also the real Atman can be dharmi, participant. If we just, maybe it is not correct translation, but for our understanding we can call them participants. Two participants in this kind of error. Each one of them individually is called a dharmi, or suppose a noun or a subject. According to the point of discussion, this word will change its meaning. It will once mean the noun, or another time it will mean the subject. Here we have to remember that the word real means ultimately real, and unreal means relatively real. Our sense objects are unreal. That means they are not immediately unreal. That is why they are called relatively real, because they exist in time and they disappear in time. Error or adhyasa may happen between two unreal objects like snake and a rope, a colorless crystal and a flower, a shell and silver, etc. So error may happen between two unreal things. Both of them are unreal. Both dharmis are unreal. And third point we have to remember that naturally our examples of error, the examples of error, are based on a confusion between two objects. And these two objects are unreal. When we are giving an example, then we are using two objects in front of us. Both of them are unreal. There is no question of reality in them. Because we will use these examples to explain and understand the real error between the real subject, the Atman, and the unreal object, the relatively real object, Anatman. So these examples are given. The examples contain two things, both are unreal objects, but they are targeting to explain something, a kind of error or adhyasa which happens between one unreal thing and one real thing. We have to always remember that these examples of error or adhyasa between the rope and the snake are not exactly similar to the error between the real Atman and the unreal Anatman. At least the Atman is not like a rope. This we have to remember. Number 4 point that we have to remember, there is a relation between the example and the target of the example. Suppose I say that you touched me. Now I, the real subject, plus my body, the immediate object, plus you, another object of me. My body and you both are my objects. But what I say is, you have touched me. See, you touched my body, not me. But I say, you have touched me. I derive this connection between you and me because you touched the body which I think as me. This is a kind of error. All these things we will discuss in detail. Actually, your touching the body is true. But your touching me is a superimposition or a mistake. Right? Please remember the meaning of this word superimposition. It will come again and again in this discussion. Because this word adhyasa or error is sometimes or most of the time philosophically translated as superimposition. We will also call it error sometimes. Superimposition means covering or mistaking something first and then seeing it as something else second. So seeing it as something else is called superimposition, and that is what is called an error. You mistake a rope as a snake. This act of mistaking is called superimposition. Suppose you are touching a table and I am also touching it on the other side. Can I say you have touched me? Similar is the case when you touch the body which I think is me. Why do I say that you have hit me or touched me? Because of the error, adhyasa, that I think I am the body. And there ends everything. I end with my body. Then fifth point that we want to remember is that in the error or adhyasas, we have participating things. Two types of errors are there. We have already said that, now more clarification. Error between two objects like the rope and snake. You see a rope as a snake. One of them, suppose the rope here, has to be true. And the other, the snake, has to be the opposite of true, false. You are superimposing a false snake on a true rope. Right? So between the two participants in an error or adhyasa, one has to be true. Therefore the other would be false. This is about the error between two objects, rope and snake. Both of them are my objects. I can see them. Now, the error between the subject Atman and the object body or Anatman. I think that the body is me. This is an error. One participant, the Atman, has to be real, and Anatman has to be the opposite, unreal. Clear? Now, please note the words I have used. In case of an error between two objects like rope and snake, I use two words. The rope is true and the snake is false. Right? True and false. That is the polarity here. True and false. And in case of an error between Atman consciousness and unconscious objects, one is real, another is unreal. So true and false, real and unreal. Clear? These are very technical things we have to remember. In the Laukika Vyavahara, in the common practice, error happens between two objects of our senses. Because in this loka, means in this world, our objects are there temporary things. Like in the rope snake example, both the rope and the snake are our sense objects. You see them as your object. You are the subject, and both these are your objects. They are different from each other. The snake is different from the rope. Now let us study these two. The rope is a rope or a dharmi, not the snake. Why? Because the rope has different dharma or qualities and use. Similarly, the snake is a snake, not the rope. It is not the rope. Why? Because the snake has different qualities and use, different from those of the rope. Then we will proceed a bit further. Dharmi and dharma example for each one. Now let us look at each one of them. I have said dharmi means the noun or the thing like snake or rope, and dharma means their qualities, their adjectives or nature. The rope is called the dharmi or the noun. We have learned that. Why is it called dharmi? Because it has its dharma like qualities, attributes, nature, use, etc. These are all dharmas. Dharmas means qualities or adjectives. So the rope is called dharmi and its qualities are called dharma. Similarly, the snake is the dharmi and the qualities of the snake are called its dharma. The gist is, the noun is dharmi, its adjectives are called dharma. Suppose I say a tall person. The person is the noun, dharmi, and tallness is the adjective, the dharma. Clear? Because these are Sanskrit words, you are not familiar with this, so I am trying to repeat it again and again. Dharmi and dharma example between two different objects, like rope and snake. Both of them are nouns, dharmis. But here there is a difference. When we have an error between two dharmis, between the rope and snake, then one is called subject, noun not noun, subject, and another is called object. Because we are not talking about their dharmas, their qualities, their adjectives. We are talking about them, their nouns. So, the adhyasa or error happens between them. So, a rope appears to be a snake. So, dharmi, one dharmi appears to be another dharmi. Right? They have different names. I am not going into those philosophical details. But please remember this. The subject rope is dharmi and the object snake is dharma in this respect. When we have subject-object adhyasa or error, then one is rope dharmi, another snake which by its own right is dharmi but will be called a dharma here because it is taking part in an action between two things. We have instances of two types of errors now. Two types of adhyasas. Errors between two objects like the rope and snake, shell and silver, etc. Both are objects of the subject. Who is the subject? I am the subject. So both are objects of the subject. I am trying to understand how this superimposition between my two sense objects happen. I am trying to understand how this confusion, superimposition or error between my two sense objects happen. Like rope and snake, both are my sense objects. This is one thing. Second, between the real conscious subject and the relatively real object, like the real me, the self, and the unreal body-mind complex. Here two things are there only. Me and my body. And there I had three things. I was there, number one. And there was superimposition between my two sense objects, rope and snake. So three. In case of the example, there were three entities. And in case of this target of the example, there are only two entities, me and my body. And there was me, my snake and my rope, three. In the example, there were three things, and in this target, which is the real adhyasa or error, there are only two. Please remember this. Now we have three technical words in Sanskrit. Of the two participants in an error, one is called the adhishthanam. Please just listen to this. Afterwards you can go back to YouTube video and can listen to it again, because these are all technical things. I am not going to use them again. One is called the adhishthanam or the substratum on which the superimposition happens, like the rope. Number two, another is called adhyastam, the superimposed object like the snake. And the third one is, this mistake happens due to the act or process called error or adhyasa or superimposition. Let us look at the example, rope and snake. A real rope appearing as a real snake, which is actually not there. The snake is not actually there, but it is appearing as a real snake. There are three ways to look at this mistake or error in this example. Anyatha grahanam. The mistake here is that it is from the standpoint of the rope. The mistake is that you miss the rope and take it for a snake. Right? The word is mistake. You miss the snake and take it for a snake. You miss the rope and take it for a snake. Mistake. Error. You miss the substratum, rope, and superimpose the unreal snake. This is one way of looking at this error. Second way of looking at this error from the standpoint of the snake. You see the snake as real and therefore you do not see the rope. This is as simple as that. Then the third thing is that Satya Andrita Mithuni Karanam. You mix up a real rope with an unreal snake. There is only one real rope and there is nothing else, but you find an unreal snake there. So that is what is called Satya Anrita Mithuni Karanam. How does it happen? We will explain that later. Our existential problem is in respect of Atman and Anatman Adhyasa error. The error concerning me and my body and whatever is connected with this body. And by the word I mean including all other things that come together with this body. In the case of rope snake error, I was analyzing the mistake between two things that were in front of me. I was analyzing. I am the third entity who was analyzing. The rope is not analyzing anything, the snake is not analyzing anything. It is called analysis of non-self. Non-self analysis. Do you understand this? This is the example. I am analyzing the adhyasa or error. And error about what? The snake and the rope. Neither the snake nor the rope is interested in this type of discussion. But I am interested. So I am analyzing what? Analysis of non-self. Both are not self. Neither the snake nor the rope. And that is different from the self-analysis. We have promised to do self-analysis for self-realization. See the difference? We have to always be very clear about these two factors. The example that we are giving, there is a big difference between the example and the target of the example, right? But now in respect of the Atman and Anatman mix-up, the problem is that I, the fellow who was standing and analyzing rope, snake, adhyasa or error, so that I am part of the problem. The problem is that I am part of the problem. I am no more the third party standing there and analyzing adhyasa. I, the Vishwa, in the waking state, who am trying to understand the error, that I am the noun like the rope in the example. I am involved as the rope. I have to always study the subject-object error, being part of the error, not standing outside as the third entity and having all the benefits of analysis. That is the process of self-analysis, discernment, leading to self-realization. I am Brahman. Clear? So the rope, snake or such other examples of error help us to understand the problem, but they do not contain the real problem of self-ignorance. The rope, snake example does not contain the problem of self-ignorance. They are not self-ignorant. That is what we are facing. That is a serious thing. How difficult it is. Let me give an example. Two brothers went to a psychiatrist. Suppose their names are John and James. After both of them were taken into the consultation room, John said, "Doctor, James has some big mental issue. He is denying that he is James. That is why I have brought him to you." And James immediately reacted. "What? Oh my God. Doctor, listen, this is John. He does not know who he is. He is claiming that he is not John. That is why I have brought him to you." Now try to understand the confusion of the doctor. How will the poor doctor know who between these two is the real patient? Well, this is a real problem for the doctor. But we are sure one of the two brothers is not the patient. That we can tell. But we don't know who that fellow is. How will the brother who is not the patient convince the doctor that he is not the patient? Now let us go one step further. How will the real patient brother know that he is the patient? That is our case. Scriptures say a guru, that is a neighbor, identifies the patient brother, and the scriptures of the doctor cures him. Well, such an event did really happen. I know it. In our case also, we are caught up in such a mix-up. One moment I say I am the body, another moment I say it is my body. One moment I say I am the body. Means I just point to my body and say this is me. And another moment said my body has developed some pain here, this, that. So there is a difference between I am the body and this is my body. I am the watch and this is my watch. See the difference? I am the bed and this is my bed. See the difference? I and the body are the two candidates in the chamber of the psychiatrist or the doctor guru with his or her medical books on psychiatry, the scriptures. Self-enquiry is done with the help of the guru and scriptures. That has been told again and again by the scriptures. I need help from a guru and scriptures because I am the patient of this error. In case of the object-object error, the poor substratum rope does not have the genius of the consciousness of I, the Atman, to complicate matters. That is why it was easy to understand rope and snake error. And that is why my thinking that I am the body is not that easy because I am part of the problem. I, the Vishwa in the waking state, am part of the problem. I want to remind you the example that I gave sometime back in one of our classes. The mom is calling out to the child whom he has put to sleep now. Honey, have you slept? The child answers, yes mom, thank you. Now mom goes on arguing with the sleeping child. You are not sleeping, honey, because you are answering my question. Then the child invoked the strongest logic ever possible. Mom, why don't you accept when I am saying it? This is our case. This is our case. I am saying that I am the body. Who are you to say that I am not the body? Another moment I am saying that this is my body. My body has developed pain. Why don't you accept it to be true? Which one of this is true? So we have some polarities of error or adhyasa. The polarities are nothing but different angles or views or ways to look at the ignorance and the substratum and the subsequent error in contrast with the substratum or the basis of the error. These are two participants of an error. Suppose the rope and snake. Polarity is determined by looking at one aspect of the error, once from the side of the rope and again from the side of the snake. Clear? Polarity is determined by looking at one aspect of the error. Once we look at it from the side of the rope and again we look at it from the side of the snake. That is one set. So this creates a few sets of polarity. There are such 5 sets or aspects or points of view to look at this error. Always each set contains these 2 viewpoints. Once you have a postulate and you try to look at this postulate from the standpoint of suppose the rope, another time same thing from the standpoint of the snake. Please remember it. There is nothing mysterious about it. Now this type of study is called analysis. And when it is applied to the error between the self and the not self, that is called self-analysis. Not self is not available for your analysis. They don't care. But you care about yourself. And that is why you try to understand who you are. And that is why it is called self-analysis. And why do you add this body or not self? Because that is the problem here. This analysis creates the samskara or the impression to slowly and firmly realize the reality behind the error. The reality, one of these two should be true, another then will be false automatically. What is true? And we are telling real. Reality behind the error. When we have a stubborn error, and when we have believed that as true knowledge, unfortunately, for a long time, we are caught up in the net of error called Maya, universal error. And that is the loka vyavahara, so-called normal and natural human practice. Because almost all of us believe in it and also behave accordingly. But the analysis of error is a process that gives real hope to the poor mind. This poor mind is already suffering from colossal hopelessness. This hopelessness is created by common beliefs, loka vyavahara, and certain pessimistic and fatalistic religious doctrines. Unfortunately, it is so. Now the fact seems to be, when you have ignorance of the rope, you can make the error of seeing a snake. Otherwise not. This is our general understanding. But this is partially wrong. Because the ignorance referred to here is not complete or total ignorance. It is partial ignorance. If you do not see the rope at all, which happens in complete darkness, then there is no question of seeing a snake. Right? That is why I said that the error happens in mild darkness, not in total darkness. You won't see the rope. There is no question of seeing a snake, therefore. Initially, I see that something is there, but I don't know what that thing is. Then the error starts. Hence, the mind creates the error of projecting something, here in case of rope, projecting a snake. So the existence of the rope is partially known, but the knowledge that it is a rope is converted into the knowledge of a snake. Clear? Similarly, when I say that I am the body, I have made a fundamental mistake which is based on half truth and half untruth. That is why we need to discuss the polarities of the error. Clear? There are 5 types of polarities. We may call them dissimilarities and maybe contradictions or comparison. Just we juxtapose 2 things. These 5 sets are not mutually exclusive, as I have said. Please remember, we are trying to understand how an error is created by ignorance. Ignorance is covering the reality and then projecting an error. Hope you remember the word dharmi and dharma. Once again, in short, in the rope snake example, when we talk about the error between them plain and simple, then rope is the dharmi substratum and snake is the dharma or object that covers it. But looking at each one of them individually, we see that the rope is called dharmi because it has dharma, it is noun, because it has adjectives. What are the adjectives of the rope? It is not harmful, it is not fearful, it is long, like that. And similarly, if we look at the snake is dharmi, a noun, but it has qualities like being poisonous, harmful, fearful, etc. These are all adjectives. So once it is noun, because it has adjectives. In short, at one time dharmi means noun, its dharma means adjective, another time dharmi means the subject, and dharma means the object. Okay? Technical things, difficult also, but through our discussion it will be clear. Dharmi error versus dharma error. Dharmi adhyasa, dharma adhyasa. Substantive superimposition and qualitative attributive superimposition. These two are parts of the artha adhyasa, object superimposition, as we will discuss in number 5 afterwards in great detail. Once again, error, adhyasa, the effect originates from the cause, ignorance. Error is an effect of an ignorance. We have to remember this. Dharmi error, this I have said about that this is dharmi and dharma adhyasa. So we are now taking up the dharmi error. Under the first type of polarity, we use the word dharmi to mean the thing which is mistaken. Like the rope in the rope snake error. There are two dharmis, the rope and the snake. Each one is a dharmi by its own right, as we have said. We superimpose the dharmi, one dharmi on another dharmi. We superimpose one dharmi on another dharmi. The dharmi snake on the dharmi rope. That is why it is called dharmi adhyasa. Right? Now let us apply the idea to the case of our misunderstanding about who we really are. That means in case of error between Atman and Anatman. Anatman means body and other things connected with that. Consciousness and inert body. This is the adhyasa. Confusion. We say, I am the body. Shankara says, Ahamidam. Suppose you ask a question, who is there? I will answer, it's me. I will not say it's me and my body. I say this is me. I accept me as the body. It is an example of dharmi error in which we do not see the difference between the subject and the object. The object body has become me. Like when we see the snake, we do not see the rope, nor do we know that there is a rope. Rather, we see the snake and we know or think that there is a poisonous and fearful, long, curly snake in front of us. Right? This is called dharmi adhyasa. And dharma adhyasa are an error where the object is superimposed. Like the superimposition of not object is done now. Now it is qualities. The qualities of one on the qualities of another. Dharma means here quality now or adjective. The length or longness, the curved feature, the innocence of the rope are a reason for the superimposition. Let us apply this concept in the phrase my body. See, earlier I said it's me, when body is me. I am the body. Now I am saying it's my body. Mama idam, it belongs to me. That means I and the body are related, not one and the same. There is no identification. The body belongs to me, so the body is one of my qualities, as when we say My height, my color and height, they are my qualities. So this is called dharma adhyasa. We will have more clarification about it under the mutual error, anyonya adhyasa, in the next point. Then adhyasa number 2, polarity number 2. Ekonmukha adhyasa, ekonmukha, unilateral. Adhyasa means superimposition, versus anyonya adhyasa means mutual superimposition. This is another way of looking at the same error. We have said that in the error, two participants are there, two dharmis are there. Ekonmukha error, adhyasa or unilateral superimposition. In the example of the rope and snake mix-up, the rope is there and the snake is not there. In this type of error, the non-existent snake can be superimposed on the existent rope, but not the other way around. This is very serious. You can superimpose something which is non-existent on something which is existent. Non-existent or false thing can be superimposed on a true thing, but a true thing cannot be superimposed on a false thing. Like there is no rope, but you see a snake there, then what will happen? That is a real snake, not a mistaken snake. There is no rope, but you are seeing a snake. And then you say, in the Advaita Vedanta, I have learned that a rope is seen as a snake. Advaita did say that, but Advaita did not say that unreal rope. It said that there should be a real rope, and then the snake will be unreal. But here there is no rope, you are seeing a snake, then that snake is a real snake. Be careful. So you cannot do it the other way around. So this is like, now you apply this in the case of error between Atman and Anatman. Atman is real, it is the substratum. Therefore, what is superimposed on the Atman should be unreal, because it is superimposition. If one becomes real, the another is automatically unreal. The body-mind complex and whatever is related to this are all unreal. By adhyasa itself you can prove that they are unreal. Then anyonya adhyasa, this is ekonmukhi adhyasa. You just superimpose that unreal rope or unreal snake on the rope, real rope. That is possible, but not the other way around. But anyonya adhyasa, it means the mutual superimposition. The reality of the snake is true. Why? Because it belongs to rope. The snake is unreal. I am superimposing this. But then why do I see it as real? Because there is this reality of the rope is now superimposed on the snake. It is not superimposition, it is called connection, contact. The rope is noun, dharmi, and its adjectives, dharmas, are length, curvatures, slimness, etc. Similarly, the snake is noun and its adjectives are poisonous, fearful, etc. The error is that we mistake the rope as the snake. And also we mix up between the poisonousness of the snake and the length and curvature of the rope. Then what happens? Long, carved, poisonous snake. Length and curvature was not there. It belongs to the rope. And that is why you can superimpose a snake. You do not superimpose a book on that, because the similarity is not there. Hence we get a long, carved and poisonous snake. The reality of the rope gets mixed up with the unreality of the snake. The venomousness, the fearfulness of the snake being superimposed on the innocent rope. So each one of the rope and the snake is responsible and they are contributing to this confusion. Let us apply it in the target of our example. We are trying to look at it with two participants. Number one is Atman, which is real, and number two is Anatman, which is unreal. Atman is the basis, substratum or noun, dharmi, and consciousness, Chaitanya, is the nature, quality of Atman, dharma. Similarly, the unreal Atman, and it has its is noun and dharmi, and it has its inertia, temporariness, etc., the qualities of nature. Anatman means the bodies, koshas, seeds. These are all called Anatman. This mutual subject-object superimposition is like this. The real Atman and its apparent attributes are appearing through the unreal koshas or body. And conversely, the unreal bodies and their attributes are being superimposed on the real Atman. So we say my body exists, shines, it is blissful. Body cannot exist for a long time. It cannot shine by itself. It cannot be blissful by itself. These are all qualities of the Atman. That means we say that the qualities of the real me or Atman belong to the body. Actually, they are not true. That is the adhyasa. And I also say I am a man, I am a doctor, I am a celibate, I am a householder, etc., etc. So I am, all these things are again adhyasta on me. Man, woman, householder, thirsty, hungry, angry, all these things belong to the body and mind. They don't belong to me. But I superimpose them on me. So quality adhyasa here. So this is called tadatmya adhyasa. Then third is this is called mutual, means anyonya adhyasa. Then we come to tadatmya adhyasa or the identification superimposition. It is also called swarupa adhyasa. Versus sambandha adhyasa means contact superimposition. This is, one has to be very careful to understand this. In the dharma adhyasa, that my body, when I said in the first point, there dharma means the object that is superimposed. Here two things happen in this case. The mind-body complex is superimposed on the pure consciousness. And then only the mind is recognizable, not the consciousness. We think that mind is conscious. The inert mind seems to be conscious. Mind is inert, material thing. Like the rope and snake example, only the snake is visible. This is called Swarupa Adhyasa. Another example is, suppose in mild darkness you see a stump of a tree at a distance. You are a thief. You will imagine that a policeman is waiting there to catch you. If you had an appointment with your friend, you would assume that the friend is waiting there for you, and so on and so forth. So the imaginary thing will replace the real thing. And the mind seems to be conscious that time. That is the thing. The consciousness of the Atman is manifesting through the mind-body complex. By what? Not by superimposition. By contact. Why not by superimposition? Because consciousness is real. It cannot be superimposed on something which is unreal. Do you remember that? The basis or substratum can never be unreal or untrue. That should be true. Therefore, you cannot, as I said, superimpose a real snake on an unreal rope. No, then there is only real snake. So here it is also like that. Then how does it get that consciousness? The mind and body seem to be conscious. It is because of contact, sangsarga adhyasa. Because it is nearest to the Atman. And that is why the consciousness of the Atman is percolating through this mind and body. So we think that these all consciousness belongs to the mind body. So this is called contact error, samsarga adhyasa. We cannot say that this consciousness of Atman is superimposed on the body mind complex. That would be wrong. That's what we have discussed already. To clarify it more, when body is seen as Atman, we know either the body is superimposed on Atman or the Atman's consciousness is percolating through the body. We cannot call it identification error. Not tadatmya adhyasa, sangsarga adhyasa. Then the fourth one is karana adhyasa versus karya adhyasa. Karana means ajnana. Ajnana means ignorance is the cause of this superimposition, and the effect or error, and that is the adhyasa. So the superimposition of unreality of the snake on the rope is called causal error. It creates the ignorance that the rope is not there. Ignorance is the cause of this covering. And the error is karya. Error means effect. Is the mistaken notion that the snake is real and it is there. And let us see this adhyasa for a short time in the real target. The prajna in deep sleep state is a karana adhyasa because there only the ignorance is superimposed. All the states will take the condensed form of ignorance. So prajna is a case of karana adhyasa. Taijasa and Vishwa, the waking and dreaming state individuals, they have both ignorance and error because they are karya adhyasa. Not only ignorance is there, but it created the states, the mind, the vrittis. Therefore, this is called karya adhyasa. And I will go through the last one, fifth one, artha adhyasa, the object superimposition, and jnana adhyasa, the knowledge superimposition. Artha adhyasa means that the appearance of the snake is called artha adhyasa. Artha means object. So artha adhyasa, appearance of the snake, of the object, is called artha adhyasa, and jnana adhyasa, not the feature of the snake but the knowledge of the snake. First, the appearance of the snake is called artha adhyasa, and the knowledge that it is a snake, not a rope, that knowledge is called jnana adhyasa. So these are the two types. This is the polarity, fifth polarity. So this is, in our case, I am the body. In this sentence, the unreal body appearing as the real I is a case of artha adhyasa, object error. And whereas the knowledge of this appearance is called knowledge error, jnana adhyasa. The training in the analysis of error will help us to look at all our complaints about our physical body, our mind, our defects, our privileges, our difficulties, and all this from two standpoints. I have to discover that these complaints belong to my body, my mind, and not to me. I am being subject to thinking that I am being dragged into the problem. Number two, then I will look at the problem from the standpoint of my body mind, which are ultimately unreal. Hence, all the complaints have temporary value. All the complaints have temporary value. That is the truth. And they should not affect me, even now when they are with me. The abhyasa or habit of seeing adhyasa or error as error. The habit, abhyasa, of seeing adhyasa as adhyasa. The habit of seeing an error and as an error will lessen our suffering, even though the problems or privileges will remain the same. But they will remain at their place. Adhyasa teaches us that non-existence cannot be the reality, period. If I say this body-mind complex is all, this body is me, then I do not exist, the body exists. But I know that this body is not permanent. Then what happens? I believe in my own extinction. This is absurd and childish. Well, I do not want to go further. We are already, we have crossed our time, and this is a great philosophical analysis. We are studying the Mandukya Upanishad, and these things we need to study the Brahma Sutras. But this clarification will be handy for us to understand the Karikas well in the following chapters of this Upanishad. Hence, it is worthwhile to discuss these difficult technical philosophical points. Thank you very much. We will close our session with Om. Om.